Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby. Bobby DiBiasio, Vice President with the Cleveland Indians, with us on WAKR, brought to you by NECA-IBEW. Bobby, first of all, let's go back because this week, he was born this week in 1935. And I know you honored him a couple of years ago. Certainly a pinnacle when you talk about Cleveland Indians baseball history. He had a big footprint in that, and that's Frank Robinson. And also, what a baseball player, an icon in baseball. I thought maybe you could reflect a little bit on Frank, his Indians tenure, and then, of course, you honoring him just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, thanks for that opportunity, Ray. Frank Robinson, you could argue, is one of the greatest players to ever put on a baseball uniform. He has to be in that discussion. He was so good at the game of baseball. You know, baseball in Cleveland is about tradition. It's about affecting change. It's about magical moments. And Frank Robinson is certainly all about that, affecting change in 1975 when he became the first African-American manager in the history of Major League Baseball. Back in May of 2017, we honored that moment with a statue out at Heritage Park. And the statue depicts him looking at his lineup card as he presented it at home plate on opening day, which he then went on to hit a home run, as most people who are listening probably realize and know that bit of history, that as player manager, he hit a home, penciled himself in as DH, and first inning hit himself a home run, a solo bomb. And so we always kid Terry Francona that, Tris Speaker was a player manager. We won in 1920. Lou Boudreau was player manager in 1948. We won. And Frank Robinson was a player manager here. So how come you can't be a player manager? Maybe that's the ticket. We just got to get Tito healthy. But, Frank's Triple Crown season in 66, if you think about it, 49 homers, 122 ribbies. He hit 316 for the Reds, and then the Reds go and trade him, which is just a bizarre thing unto itself. And then Yaz does it the very next year, wins the Triple Crown in 67 for the Red Sox, and then it just doesn't happen again for a long time. I think, if my history's right, Miguel Cabrera was then the next one. It took a lot of time. So they had back-to-back and then not again. And it shows you how difficult it is. But 21 years in the big leagues for Frank, 14-time All-Star, certainly made an impact on our organization.
First player to win what, Bobby? Correct me if I'm wrong, the MVP award in both the American and the National League. And when he went to that Baltimore Orioles franchise, really transformed that team from a good team to a great team for sure. And as Bobby mentioned, iconic man in Cleveland Indians history, first black manager in Major League Baseball. Speaking of Heritage Park and honoring great players, Bobby, coming up next week, it's the ceremony at the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. We've got Jeter, we've got Larry Walker, Simba, Ted Simmons, one of my favorite players from the 70s, and Marvin Miller, who was very important to baseball going into the Hall of Fame. But this is a place you hold in high regard. And thought maybe you could reflect a little bit on Cooperstown, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
If you haven't been there, you absolutely need to get there. The quaint village of Cooperstown is wonderful unto itself. They have Shakespeare in the summer, the Leaf in the fall. If you're a Little League parent, you know all about Cooperstown and the Little League aspect to Cooperstown. But the Baseball Hall of Fame, if you're a baseball fan and haven't been there, you absolutely have to get there. This year's class is interesting. Marvin Miller, of course, put an indelible mark on the game of baseball and certainly needs to be honored inside the hallowed halls of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Derek Jeter, a remarkable career playing shortstop in New York and part of that winning culture and being a captain of that team for so many years. Larry Walker, I remember in 1997, Ray, Larry Walker in the All-Star game is taking batting practice. And we had because our ballpark was obviously relatively new, we had the fascia boards and we had the fascia scoreboard, and that was in front of the mezzanine section, the middle deck of right field that Bradley Zimmer just hit a ball into. So Larry Walker's in batting practice and he was pelting the fascia of the scoreboard and hitting all the light bulbs and all, because it was still a wasn't the type of LED kind of technology you have today, the pixels and all. They weren't actual light bulbs, but he was popping the lights of our scoreboard, and we all got a kick out of that. We're like, oh my God, we hadn't seen that, in 95, 96 until he just peppered the scoreboard. And then Ted Simmons, as you said, he's one of your favorites. Well, he's one of mine as well. I had the honor when I was the PR man for the Atlanta Braves for 1 year in 1987. Ted Simmons was on that team with Ken Griffey Sr. and Greg Nettles. It had some veteran guys, and Simmons taught me how to do crossword puzzles. I'll tell you, he was a champ at crossword puzzles. He'd sit there and have his cigarettes. He'd get there about noon, 1 o'clock, and do the crossword puzzle. He's the guy that we hired at the Indians when we traded Carlos Baerga to the New York Mets. John Hart challenged Ted Simmons to find the top offensive second baseman in baseball that we wanted to go after. As John and Danny thought that Carlos's skill set was diminishing a little bit. And so they wanted to, find a real stud offensive second baseman. And they ended up getting Jeff Kent. Unfortunately, Jeff Kent had no interest playing in the American League. He was really a bizarre guy in that regard. Came over and was not a very friendly guy and didn't want to be there and didn't specifically want to be in the American League. And then he went off to the Giants and had an MVP offensive season. So Ted Simmons picked the right guy. It's just that guy didn't want to be in the American League. But it's going to be such a wonderful event for anybody who's ever been to the induction ceremonies. They know what I'm talking about. Had the privilege to be there when Robbie Alomar and Burt Blyleven were inducted together. And then, of course, Jim Thome was such an incredible celebration and party when he was inducted. It's truly a wonderful time. Cooperstown is great unto itself, but anytime you can get there during induction ceremony time, it truly, for a baseball freak, you've got to do it.
Baseball historian, Bobby, you've told me so many great stories. And I'm one of those guys, surprisingly, as much of a baseball nut that I am. I haven't been there. And I'm trying to plan trips to go, and it keeps getting pushed back, but I've got to circle it in. But you've told me some astonishing trips from Babe Ruth's bat to all these things that are there. And you got to give yourself more than just a couple of hours, right?
Oh, yeah. It's easily a day or two, depending upon how you do museums. Some people can shuffle along in a museum and take it in. Others stand and just take a display in and read everything. And if that's you, then it may take a couple days, only because you give yourself a little breather. There might be some baseball being played at Doubleday Field, just a block away. All the card collecting shops and the restaurants in the area. There's some breweries in the Cooperstown area that if you want to put that as part of your little vacation, take a tour of a few, the Omegon and a few others. There's a lot to do, hiking trails, etc. So I'd give yourself, if you have the opportunity, the Otis Saga Hotel just looks over this gorgeous lake, a great golf course right attached to the hotel. If you stay in that hotel, you can walk to the clubhouse, the pro shop, to play that golf course. But they have the huge rocking chairs on the back veranda overlooking the lake, and it's terrific.
Okay, you whet my appetite enough.
Yeah.
To wrap up the show this week, you mentioned him earlier. I did want to say that a couple of my listeners have sent me messages saying, can you ask Bobby about Tito and how he's coming along with his health after his surgery? So I don't know how much you know there, Bobby. Hate to put you on the spot, but what can you tell us, if anything?
Well, he's been to the ballpark a few times, sat in the suite and during games. He does come over to the ballpark to get some rehab done in the morning. He tries to clear out because, Tito's remarkable in the way that he could be a helicopter manager. He could hang out, walk around, bug DeMarlo Hale at every moment. But he understands what that job is all about. And it's DeMarlo Hale's team right now. DeMarlo and his coaching staff, it's their team. And so he respects that. And he'll come in and get a little rehab. I think he gets into the Swimex and does some walking and other rehab for the hip replacement surgery that he had. Then he's going to have some surgery on the big toe. But, he's doing okay. He's progressing exactly the way we had hoped, and, underwent this surgery at the time we did so that he could be ready for spring training 2022. And that certainly is on path.
There you go. Hey, Bobby, Vice President of the Cleveland Indians, Bobby DiBiasio, taking time out of his day, brought to you by NECA-IBEW. My friend, have a good holiday weekend. We'll catch up with you again next week.
Thank you, Ray. Take care, buddy. Go Tribe.